Hi everyone, Dronthony Strike Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Ty Segall album. It's self-titled. The ever-prolific one-man rock and roll machine, Ty Segall, he has a new album out, releasing a project just a year after his fantastic Emotional Mugger album in 2016, one of his most fuzzy, noisy, experimental, and left-field projects yet. This new one is self-titled, as I said, which takes me back a little bit to 2008 when Ty had originally dropped a self-titled album. At the time, he was releasing this really rudimentary fusion of punk and garage rock. He was pretty legendary for performing while playing guitar, drums, and singing all at the same time. And now, about 10 years later, Ty's new self-titled album showcases a much more refined approach. His music is much more complex than it used to be, even though he pulls from a lot of the same stylistic influences of the 60s and 70s. But now he's pulling off these really sharp guitar solos, sometimes two layered on top of each other, amazing, beautiful vocal harmonies, maybe some pianos worked in there too. He's more versatile now than he's ever been, so maybe Ty is kind of taking this opportunity to drop a self-titled album and show how far he's come, reinvent himself or redefine himself. And as exciting or as interesting a concept as that might sound, and I hope that's maybe the intention behind this thing, this album still just is a 30-minute mixed bag for Ty. This record kicks off with tracks like Freedom and Break a Guitar, songs that in my opinion are kind of by the numbers for Ty Segall at this point. They're not terrible, but nowhere near as refreshing as I think they would need to be in order to be cause for a new album. However, some more adventurous writing and significant risks do come later in the album, like the 10-minute monster Warm Hands, open parentheses, Freedom Returned. This thing is an epic and multifaceted song with these blazing guitar solos, weird vocal harmonies, and a build-up riff that brings us into the chorus that sounds like the exact riff on the hook to Collective Soul's Shine, yeah, but sped up and more brittle and punkier and more intense. The song progresses into this strange, disjointed jam that eventually collectivizes into this loud riff and crazy refrain that's swallowed up in these brittle walls of distortion. Ty's vocal melody sort of slice through the noise like a 1,000-degree knife through anything. I love the heavy, menacing presence of the song The Only One, even if the slow, lumbering groove of the song makes the pace kind of tedious. But the true highlight in the track listing here is Thank You Mr. K, a track that's built off these fast, punky riffs that sound like something that could have made it off of a Ramones record if you played it at 45 RPM. Then these riffs are elevated with these wild pianos being hammered away on in the background. Ty embellishes on these little tiny basic riffs beautifully sometimes, and it just adds way more to the track than I thought it would. The piano is played just so viscerally, especially during this chaotic crescendo after the middle point of the song, which just hits me like a rush after like a line of coke. I don't do cocaine. But really where Ty surprises me on this record is with the ballads on this thing, and there are quite a few. And, you know, not these atmospheric, sparse, kind of lifeless acoustic tracks that I know he's recorded before. There's actually like some tangible, colorful, beautiful instrumentation on these cuts. Even if Ty does tend to wear his influences very obviously on his sleeve, specifically on the track Orange Color Queen. But I do like the slow saloon piano on the song Talkin', which is kind of a sad track, really downtrodden, and I like how the lyrics kind of are a little abstract, but they're building toward this moral of projecting one's own problems onto others and talking shit behind the people's backs. And Papers is a beautifully odd song with some very strange lyrics, some tense, sour vocal harmonies that sound like something off of a J Retard single, but backed with this piano snare pattern, dun, 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 pa, that has been the foundation for many, many, many vocal pop tunes from the 60s, and even music today that likes to emulate that music. The melody on Take Care of Your Hair makes the tune a somewhat fitting finish for the album, even though Ty guides the song into a set of riffs that sound like they could have been on any number of records that he's put out since, I don't know, like 2010. I feel like he's written so many riffs like this. Of course, the ones he has on this track sound super flaccid, kind of lifeless. And overall, while this is not a bad LP, there are certainly some great highlights on this thing. Ty tries some new things. None of these tracks really connect in any significant way, which makes this album read more like a compilation when you examine the overall lack of flow between these cuts. On top of that, I think a good chunk of this album is kind of safe and predictable for Ty, which is a shame because this thing is already so short. I can't help but feel like if he had sat on this album for a little while longer and cut out the redundancies, then we could have had a more refreshing project, rather than just kind of complacently going along with the same wash, rinse, repeat cycle he uses to pen so many tracks on his ever-growing discography. Still, though, I'm sure the hardcore fans will like this thing, and it is one of his more diverse projects yet. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this thing. Tran. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? Next, hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave an angry comment in the comments if you're angry. All sorts of videos next to my head that you could also check out. Subscribe to the channel, official website too. Ty Segall, Ty Segall, Ty Segall, Ty Segall, forever.